Hi, everyone, and thanks to those of you who have joined us so far. It's great to see some familiar names on the call this morning. And thanks for joining us from your homes, your offices, or your homes that have likely turned into your offices. My name is Marie. I'm with Arlington Transportation Partners, or ATP, and today you'll hear from our full team on insights that we've learned assisting businesses in preparing for a return to the office. And if you're unfamiliar with ATP, we're a program of Arlington County Commuter Services that works with businesses, government agencies, and schools in Arlington to provide solutions to transportation, parking, or telework issues that help more employees get around by transit, biking, walking, carpool, vanpool, or all the other commuting options that we have around the region. And before we start, there are just a few important housekeeping items that I want to mention. And so first, only companies with an office location in Arlington can take advantage of ATP's free services. So if you're not in that group, that's absolutely okay. Feel free to still tune into this webinar. It's going to provide some supporting information depending on where you're at in your return to the office, no matter where you're located. And this webinar is being recorded. It will eventually live and be posted on our website, and the slides are available for download. You should see them in the handout section of the GoToWebinar platform. And there will also be plenty of time for questions at the end. We would love to have a discussion with you. And so as you have questions or anything, you should see a questions box. And so feel free to post them in there, and then we'll circle around and have a discussion towards the end. And like many of you, we are currently teleworking, and so we've taken measures to limit outside noises or Wi-Fi interruptions that I'm sure everybody's experienced at this point. But if they do happen, just bear with us, and we appreciate your understanding. If you cannot hear or see anything at all, definitely please post this in the questions box as well, so that I can adjust some things accordingly on my end. And so as we get started here, let's go ahead and get to know each other a little bit. So here's who you're working with when you work with ATP and who you'll be hearing from throughout the course of today's webinar. And each of us on the team focus on a particular area or industry to provide you with customized expert knowledge and solutions based on where your organization is located or whatever you might be dealing with. And so as mentioned in the beginning of the webinar, I'm Marie. I'm an associate program manager and business development manager, and I work with large employers and government agencies, primarily in National Landing, but with a couple of others spread around the county. And now I'll go ahead and I will pass it to my team members to introduce themselves, starting with Pinky, and you can unmute yourselves.
Morning, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining the webinar. My name is Pinky Advani. I'm the Senior Business Development Manager for ATP. I focus on working with employers that are located in Boston, Virginia Square, Clarendon, and then just similar to Marie, I work with clients also with employees also in South Arlington, but focusing on the smaller employers. So in our world, anybody with a company having 200 or less employees, I work with them. It's nice to see some familiar names on the webinar who I'm already working with, and the others, I look forward to working with you. So hopefully we can connect after the webinar.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. As our colleagues have already mentioned, we're really excited to bring this information to you today. I'm Erica James. I'm a business development manager for the Roslyn and Courthouse area. So yes, we're really excited to work with you and looking forward to sharing great information to help you on your return plans for later this year or early next year.
Great. Hi, everybody. My name is Zara Seastrunk, and I'm a business development manager that works with schools, particularly Arlington Public Schools, private schools, and child care facilities in Arlington County.
Awesome. And so now that we've gotten to put some faces to some names, so here's what you're going to hear about from us today. So first, we're going to dive into how COVID-19 has impacted the commute and what that means for transportation and for your employees as you look towards your return to the workplace. And then we're going to dive into how and where to incorporate the commute in your planning for a transition back to the work site, and what it means for your commuter benefits, your telework, and your other programs at your office. And finally, then we'll cover what resources and services there are to help you through Arlington County and through ATP as well. And then we'll open it up to you all for questions. And again, please feel free to type any of those questions that you have into the box for questions as they come up, and we'll circle around. And so now we just have a couple of questions for you as we get things going to see where we're all at and just sort of learn from each other a little bit. So the first poll that I'm going to pull up is going to focus on your organization's timeline. And so you now should see a poll that asks about your organization's timeline for bringing employees back to the workplace. And so just choose the option that matches what your organization is currently going through in terms of a timeline most closely. I know that certainly the situation can be fluid. And I'll allow about 10 more seconds. We've already gotten quite a few responses. All right, so just to share these back with you. So you can see that it's a little bit of a mix, and that's kind of what we've been seeing as well. So 40% of those who answered have already started to bring employees back, and 40% are still thinking about their timeline. Some things in the works, or others already have a definitive timeline. And that's definitely, I think, some of what we've seen throughout our work as well. There's definitely a few employers who have already started to bring employees back into the office on a limited basis or on a voluntary basis. And then there's others who have said, yes, we absolutely want to be back in the office by this date. While others, especially with everything going on right now, are kind of just taking a step back and thinking about what that timeline means to them. And so wherever you are in that process, this webinar is going to provide quite a bit of information for what you might want to share with your employees if they're already back in the office, or what you might need to consider if you're still in those planning and consideration stages. And so now also to help with our discussion on the programs that we have and how we can help, I'm going to open up another poll, which is which of these topics are you most concerned about regarding employees returning to the workplace? And so you'll see a few different options there, and you can select as many as you like, or if there's just one is most meaningful to you. Great. And I'll allow about 10 to 15 more seconds. Great, most everybody has answered, so I'll just go ahead and share this back. All right, so there's definitely a wide range of things here that people are concerned about. Employee safety during commute comes in second place, and then definitely sounds like a lot of people are concerned about retaining and engaging employees. And that's definitely something that's been coming up in a lot of our conversations as well, is just on, you know, if we're bringing employees back to the workplace and they've been teleworking for over a year, how can we make them feel supported and still make them want to come to work when we bring them back into the office? And I know that that's definitely something that we're covering here today, as well as employee safety and some of these other issues as well. So with that now, I'm going to go ahead and hide these results. And then I'm going to go ahead now and pass it over to Zara, who's going to be able to set the stage for us on how COVID-19 has impacted the world of commuting. So Zara, over to you.
Thanks, Marie. You can go to the next slide. So before the pandemic, the majority of Arlington residents and workers were actually using sustainable modes of transportation for the commute. We saw about a 50-50 breakdown of people who were driving alone and then others who were taking public transportation, carpooling, biking, and walking to work, based on the 2019 State of the Commute Survey, which is run every 3 years in the DC metro region. So even though there were so many commuters that were taking transit and sustainable modes, the DC metro region was home to some of the worst rush hour traffic in the nation, as I'm sure you know if you were driving on the Beltway before the pandemic. During the stay-at-home orders last spring, traffic and transit ridership really took a dive. It plummeted by up to 95% on transit as commuters transitioned to full-time remote work. Local transit operators responded to the public health emergency by implementing a number of enhanced cleaning protocols. They closed stations and limited routes with the focus of providing transportation service to essential workers that kept the region going throughout the pandemic. One of the silver linings of this low transit ridership is that it created an opportunity to accelerate some of the capital improvement projects that were already planned throughout the DC metro region and minimize the impact to commuters since they were working from home. So WMATA has completed platform renovations at 6 stations in Northern Virginia, including Vienna, East and West Falls Church, Dunloring National Airport, and Arlington Cemetery, which are all now open again. Before the pandemic, we definitely saw a trend towards increasing telework. About 32% of DC Metro employees were teleworking in 2019, at least 1 day a week. And then as soon as the pandemic hit, that really flipped on its head. We saw up to 82% of DC Metro employees teleworking in 2020. And that number has slowly increased as more employers are starting to bring people back to the workplace and reopening schools. But right now we're still seeing about 50% of employees continuing to telework, and there is a strong desire to continue teleworking at least part-time after the pandemic. All of these factors have impacted traffic throughout the region, of course. We saw about a 77% decline in rush hour traffic in 2020. And the traffic in general was more spread out over the day instead of focused on peak commuting hours. So we think that most of these trips were more leisure or not related to the workday, but people were choosing to drive, of course, during the pandemic as they were concerned about taking public transportation. Next slide. So on this page, I wanted to show you guys what the daily rail entries on Metro Rail were looking like, starting off in February of 2020 through May of 2021. As you can see here, the recovery has been pretty slow. There's been slight increases, but for the most part, transit ridership remains pretty low, and it's probably going to be a long time before you see the packed Metro cars from pre-pandemic times. Next slide. Oh, I'm missing a slide here. Okay, well, this might be a little bit hard to explain, but I did have another chart that showed how traffic had rebounded throughout the region on the Beltway. And what they saw from traffic counts was that traffic had already it's back, especially in the outer rings of the DC metro region, that traffic has rebounded to pre-pandemic levels. And that's while people are continuing to work from home, still in pretty large numbers, and schools haven't yet reopened for the fall. So it kind of demonstrates the importance of why we're talking with you guys today about encouraging transportation options and giving people a variety of options to choose from instead of feeling like they have to drive or that they don't have another option, because that's where we come in. We're here to help people find different options, take advantage of all the modes that are available to them and not just feel like they have to drive. So where we are now, transit operators are planning major service enhancements this fall to bring more riders back to public transportation. Please be aware that there is a federal mask mandate still in place for all riders and transit employees on public transportation, regardless of vaccination status. We actually have seen pretty high levels of adherence to this policy, which is great. People are continuing to be pretty cautious on public transportation if they are taking it. But we're anticipating that to stay in place for the foreseeable future. So service has been restored to pre-pandemic levels, and operators are responding to this increased demand by running more trains and buses during peak hours and extending service hours to what they were before the pandemic. In addition to enhancing ventilation and cleaning protocols on trains and buses, WMATA has rolled out real-time crowding data and contactless fare payment on iPhone and Android devices to help riders transition back to the commute. So how bad traffic will be this fall really entirely depends on whether commuters return to their pre-pandemic travel patterns and whether employers continue to allow telework and encourage flexible work schedules that would minimize the impact of peak traffic on the region's highways. Next slide. Oh, this is the chart I was talking about. The traffic counts in the Beltway during the pandemic. This was the same time period as before, but you can see as of May 21st, 2021, it's back. And that's not including this summer. We've seen increased traffic as well. So will riders return? We've definitely seen a lot of concern about Delta and continued spread of COVID-19. And so these concerns are front of mind of people who are thinking about their return to the office and trying to decide whether they're going to return to transit, if they're comfortable getting in a carpool or a van pool, or if they want to decide to bike or walk back to the workplace. There were certainly a lot of people that purchased a bike and got really into bicycling and walking during the pandemic, and they're thinking about incorporating that into their commute as they return. Telework, of course, we're seeing a huge shift towards hybrid workforce. There are still a good number of people who aren't comfortable returning to the office, especially with Delta continuing to circulate and cases increasing. But we do anticipate that employees will continue to desire that flexibility, have the option to go into the office if they need to, or continue working from home if that's most convenient to them and their job position allows for it, and their productivity is the same. You can go to the next slide. So fall transit service, I wanted to walk you guys through some of the service enhancements that you can expect to see. WMATA did recently approve several fare reductions that will go into effect after Labor Day, including the elimination of the $1.50 transfer fee between bus and rail. And they also lowered the price of a 7-day regional bus pass from $15 to $12. Metro has also extended rail hours from 11 p.m. to midnight, and they plan to expand service until 1 a.m. on Friday and Saturday nights after Labor Day. Rail service frequency will be 10 minutes or less on all lines during peak hours this fall, and even less on the red line. I think they're planning on reducing that to 5 minutes, every 5 minutes on the red line. And local bus service has been restored throughout the region. On the 46 bus routes that weren't operating during the pandemic, those are all back. And Metro is responding to increased demand for bus services by running more frequent buses on the busiest lines. Every 12 minutes, and then some of the less busy routes, that's about every 20 minutes. So definitely an improvement for what we were seeing during the pandemic, as more people are commuting back to work. ART buses will also restore service on several routes that were eliminated during the pandemic. That's 53, 61, 62, 74. Those will all be available starting September 7th. And Dash buses in Alexandria are kicking off a new pilot program on September 5th. That will make all bus rides free to the public. They have also restored service on a number of routes throughout Alexandria. So these are all great things to be aware of and make sure that your employees are aware of as they're planning their commute back to work. Next slide. And then for the long distance commuters, the VRE has resumed full train service as of June 1st. And they're also planning on adding additional round trip trains on the Fredericksburg and Manassas lines after September 6th. On MARC trains and MTA buses in Maryland, they have restored full service, and now they're also allowing bikes on trains and buses, which is really great news for those people who want to bike for their first or last mile connection to their nearest transit service. Fairfax Connector has taken over 5 major commuter bus lines that Metro used to run to help provide some enhanced service to key areas in Fairfax County with connections to McLean, East Falls Church, West Falls Church, and Pentagon Metro stations. And OmniRide has also updated their commuter bus schedules and express routes to serve long distance commuters. They have restored some of the routes that were eliminated, but for the fall, they're planning on being up and offering full service. So you can view their updated schedules on their website, but I would definitely recommend reaching out to us because we can help you determine what transit options are most relevant, how close they are to your workplace, and how likely people are to use them, and help match your employees with the transit options that they might be interested in using. Next slide. So why it matters. As you're planning on reopening your workplace, or if you've already brought people back, it will be essential that employees have access to the latest transit information as things continue to change, just so that they feel confident and aware of all of the options that are available to them. You know, we can help to address some of those questions that employees have about health and safety measures on public transportation, and help to bring them to other modes of transit other than driving, so that we don't see a huge increase in traffic, parking issues, and air quality this fall if more people choose to drive back to work. So ATP can help you overcome those employees' barriers to transportation by educating them on their sustainable options, encouraging people to re-enroll in commuter benefits programs, or connecting them with regional incentive programs that can help ease the burden of commute costs. This is something that we saw a lot during the pandemic, is that people really enjoyed being able to work from home because they didn't have to commute, they didn't have to spend that money or time out of their day. And all of those hours spent on transit or in traffic, it really adds up and takes away from your quality of life. So helping people to find better options for them will definitely make it easier for employees to commute back to work and have a smoother transition from full-time remote work to being back in the office, at least on a part-time schedule. So I would also suggest, like, you should definitely think about how your organization will be impacted by limited parking availability and parking costs that may change if demand outpaces supply, which we're already seeing an increased demand for parking. And as employers start to bring people back in greater numbers, if you are reaching fuller capacity in your office buildings or at your schools, then parking is definitely going to be an issue if you don't have benefits and programs available to help manage some of that demand. Next slide. So creating your return timeline. I know some of you are already bringing people back, but it's never too late to restart your commuter benefits program. Some of the things that we can help you with are launching a survey to collect employee sentiment, find out what their concerns are about the commute. We can provide sample survey questions or conduct the survey on your behalf and provide in-depth analysis and recommendations based on the results. We also recommend assessing your commuter benefits program before employees return or as employees are returning, and connecting with your building management to see how they plan to manage parking, bike storage, showers, and locker facilities when employees start to return to the workplace. We do have a checklist available to help walk you through this process, and we'll go into a little bit more depth later on today. But one of the things to keep in mind is that employees will need to re-enroll in commuter benefits at least a month before they start to receive those benefits on their Smart Trip accounts. So the deadline to enroll in Smart Benefits is the 21st of each month, and those benefits don't hit the accounts until the following month. And then 2 weeks before your return date, you'll want to communicate the latest transit information. So depending on where you are in your planning process and what your timeline is looking like, we do anticipate that transit schedules and operations will continue to change, and we can help provide that information as needed when the time is right. So we are happy to conduct virtual trainings with your employees and answer any questions that they have about how their commute will change and help them put together a plan for a better commute back to work. And with that, I will hand it over to Erica to give a little bit more insight into some of those assistance programs and policies that you'll want to consider for your return.
Absolutely. Just picking up on Zara's point about surveying, I think that would certainly be the name of the game, to survey. You know, in the poll, many of you expressed concerns about obviously safety, you know, managing demand, managing the hybrid work schedule, engaging and retaining employees. And I think a way to make sure that people have buy-in and that, you know, you're addressing some concerns and making sure that they're getting feedback, is to just conduct surveys. As you know, at ATP, we can, you know, provide sample surveys that we've used in the past. We can certainly work one-on-one with you, just, you know, or help you further engage your employees, to ask specific pointed questions that are customizable to whatever the concerns are. And then once you, you know, issue those surveys and get, you know, the results back, we can actually help you think about, you know, how to compile the data, and how to build a response that would ensure that people feel that their voices have been heard and their concerns have been addressed. So that's some, you know, that's really important in terms of being able to determine, you know, the challenges that you're going to be facing as a result of, you know, this, you know, planning the return and getting everyone back on board, as well as the opportunities. It might be a chance to go back and revisit some of the policies that you have, and see where we can assist you in updating them and make them more, you know, relevant to the change, you know, in terms of life that we are experiencing right now as a result of the pandemic. So, you know, just in terms of some example survey questions that we might be able to ask is, for example, how concerned are you about, you know, commuting back to the office? You know, how do you plan to commute to the office? I mean, you might want to ask, what are, you know, the most feasible times to commute based on your current life situation right now? I know a lot of people may have children that are home, they're not back in school yet. So we can really help you think about a lot of the different ways that you can manage, you know, your data collection and the analysis of it, to ensure, again, that employees are feeling like their voices are being heard, and that it helps you plan most effectively and efficiently to return back to the office. So I'll actually hand it over to my colleague, Pinky, who's going to be talking to us about how to host events and things of that nature in a moment. I know she's going to join us to pick that part up.
Thanks, Erica. Sorry, I think something's wrong with my video, so you can't see me, but I'm hoping that everybody can hear me. So events are actually a great way to complement, you know, what Erica mentioned in the previous slide about surveys, you know, to help complement, you know, with the return to office programs, because at these virtual events, we can address a lot of the employee concerns and just kind of welcome employees back into the office. So at these events, you know, we will be sharing information about transit options, of course, to come to your specific workplace. We talk about and we'll address, you know, safety protocols which are implemented across all transit providers. That includes WMATA, VREs. So we'll cover all that, as clearly we do understand that employee health and safety is not only concern of employers, but it is also a top priority for transit providers. They do want to make sure that the riders feel safe and comfortable riding all those different modes. So at the events, we will be highlighting what safety protocols have been implemented. And personally, I feel if anybody's on the fence to ride public transportation, this is the best time, because all transit providers have increased their sanitation. So definitely, you know, one should consider going back to transit. And then at our events, it's also a nice way to gently remind all the employees about the benefits that your employer is offering you, because, you know, it's been a while since a lot of us have been teleworking from home, and we've forgotten that we might have the option to enroll in a commuter benefits program and take advantage of the pre-tax benefit if a company is providing that. So we can highlight those benefits that are available to employees, and ultimately ATP can definitely customize these events to suit and cater to your needs the most. So if you want to highlight van pooling or bike commuting at your event, we can definitely have a little bit more focus around those programs. So we look forward to assisting you with hosting virtual events in the near future. And with that, I'm going to hand it over back to Erica, who's going to talk about a little bit more about the other workplace programs.
Yes, thank you, Pinky. So, something obviously that we really want to consider, when mapping out the return to the workplace is flexible workplace policies. It's definitely going to be key to easing the transition back into the office. And, many of you have already worked with us to implement some of these things. And certainly, if it's time to revisit the flexible workplace policies that you have in place, we're more than happy to schedule a time to sit down with you again after, assessing, where you are, where your employees are, what works best for your specific business needs. We're more than happy to figure out, to help you determine what would work best for you. Choosing from the option, whether it's telework, which would be, again, where employees continue working part-time at home, maybe coming, on site a couple of days out of the week, or if it's, remote work where, they're working full-time from home, obviously depending on where we're heading in the fall with the rise of various variants potentially, if that's the best option for you, or if there's going to be something that's flexible where sometimes they're teleworking, sometimes they're doing, working from home, or they come into the office on certain times of the day. And I mean, there's a lot of benefits that, that can also be realized as a result of being flexible in that regard, whether it's, reducing parking costs, making sure that there's some level of employee engagement if it's needed for your specific business where there's face-to-face interaction, obviously reducing the spread of germs, that sort of thing, and ensuring high productivity and engagement of employees. And that's something that was mentioned as well earlier in the presentation by my colleague Zara, was just talking about how many people really enjoyed being able to work from home, being able to save the time, the stress, the money associated with the commute, and being able to maintain a pretty decent or, enjoyable work-life balance. And obviously for ATP, with our goal of ensuring that we, minimize the environmental footprint by helping businesses in Arlington County map out commutes, into the county with their employees. I mean, it would be great for us as well as in terms of helping you to maintain or sustain your, your sustainable programs as well. So that's something certainly to consider. And again, if you want to just talk with us to see how, what options that we've worked with other employers in the county to assist, them getting plans up that would assist them, that we can do that for you. We can also work, provide data that, might be able to help you enhancing your flexible workplace schedules and things of that nature. So with that, we will turn it over back to Pinky, who's going to talk about why the commuter benefits are still important to returning to the office.
Thanks, Erica. So I'll just start with, just highlighting about an important stats. In a recent regional state of the commute survey report, which was done some time back, 66% of employees who worked in Arlington, Alexandria, and DC expressed that they were offered some kind of transit benefit. That's a significantly high number. Within that, definitely in Arlington, the number of employers who offer some form of transit benefit is extremely high. Now, just to give you a brief overview, what can this commuter benefit be used for? Well, it can be used for transit, of course. So if you're riding the Metro Rail, Metro Bus, Art Bus, Commuter Bus, VRE, you can use your commuter benefits to pay for that. It can also use it for van pooling. So if you were van pooling to work, you can also use this money towards the cost of van pooling. And also you can use it towards the qualified parking expenses. So which is specifically parking at any of the WMATA park and ride lots. So if you decide to drive, say to Wheelie Reston, and you park your car there, and then you want to hop on the Silver Line train coming in to Arlington. So if there's a park and ride lot there, you can use your qualified parking expenses. So we know where we can use it for, and then why particularly it is important to offer commuter benefits. Well, there are a variety of different reasons, but I'll just sum up with 3 important reasons. One is maybe your employee does not have access to its own vehicle. So using public transit is an easy way for them to get to work, and probably the only way for them to get to work. The other one could be the pandemic has definitely changed, the way commuting habits have changed. It could be that somebody could carpool earlier or was slugging before, and now that commuting option is not available, or it could be that person is, and that employee is not comfortable taking that particular mode. So you can, if you're going to be changing modes, maybe you can use it for that. Maybe you might be more open to van pooling now with your co-workers. So, as opposed to previously you were slugging. So you can use your commuter benefits towards that. And also the financial constraints that have been caused to some of us during the pandemic. So these are just some things to consider why you should be offering as an employer, commuter benefits. Also, I know a lot of, in the poll earlier, a lot of people expressed that, with employee retention, yes, commuter benefits also can help you with employee retention. And, we can share more information and details with you about, about this, later in the, towards the end of the webinar, when I'm going to be talking a little bit more about the resources. And then lastly, what types of commuter benefits are there? So ATP can help you evaluate if you're not offering a commuter benefit right now to your employees. We can help you evaluate what kind of benefit would work best for you. And then there are different kinds. One is the most popular one, which is the pre-tax one, in which essentially an employee is setting aside, the $270 pre-taxed. And then you have a direct transit subsidy. So that amount can vary from, company to company, depending on what your budgets are and how many people are going to be using, taking advantage of that. And then the other very popular one in the region is the combination one. So which is a combination of your pre-tax, where the employee pretty much contributes on pre-tax basis. And then over and above that, the employer subsidizes, gives a certain amount of money towards commuting. Next slide. Now, so in this slide, I'm just going to highlight a little bit about, the recent changes that are happening with your Smart Trip card. So this is particularly important if you are offering a pre-tax transit benefit. This is very important for you, and we encourage you to share this information with your employees who are enrolled in the program. So WMATA is eliminating first-generation Smart Trip cards. So essentially, any Smart Trip card which is purchased prior to 2012 are being phased out. So if you're not sure, say, oh, I don't know if I purchased my card in 2012 or 2010, I suggest look at your Smart Trip card. And if your Smart Trip card contains the numbers 0167, as we highlighted in the image on the slide, or if you are using a virtual Smart Trip card. So if you have it on your phone, which is your Android device, Apple device, then you have no changes. So just look at your Smart Trip card and see if it contains 0167, then you're good to go. You have no changes. You don't have to do anything about it. We have a really good blog written by Marie on our ATP website. So I would highly suggest you to visit our website and have a look at the detailed information on any of these changes that I'm talking about. And if you want, we can also email you the link of that blog. So feel free to let us know in the chat, or later let us know if you want us to share that blog with you, and we'd be happy to share that with you. And then now I'm going to hand it over to Erica, who's going to be talking more about carpooling and van pooling.
Thank you, Pinky. And keeping in mind with everything that Pinky has shared with us, that ride sharing could be a very amenable way for employees to travel back to the office. It's obviously going to be a great way to continue to encourage sustainable commute plans, also while maximizing parking capacity at your work site and allowing people to take advantage of things like the HOV express lanes, toll-free rides, and things of that nature. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about the different nodes of ride sharing and some of the differences. So as you all know about car sharing, or excuse me, carpooling, it's where someone, one of the employees would have a private vehicle and would encourage other people that live in the same area possibly or along the route to work to join to minimize the number of cars on the road. We can actually do zip code mapping to help facilitate this plan. And for people who may not be comfortable with something like van pooling, where obviously there's going to be a larger pool of riders in the car, to be exact, up to like usually about 15. Carpooling might be the good option, but in either instance, we again can zip code map, where basically we pull zip codes. We don't need the full address, just the zip codes from the employees that are interested, and we'd be able to help you map out an efficient route to be able to get to the office. Also taking into consideration, obviously, again, toll-free roads, HOV lanes, so that employees can, minimize costs that way. And it's also a benefit to the employees in terms of, being able to have employees arrive to work on time and build camaraderie and just learn more about each other. That obviously is going to also extend over into the workplace. Again, this is something where we talked about before, where you would survey to access the level of comfort with different employees to see, in what situation this would, how to make it most enjoyable and of course most safe for the employees that would be participating in the program. And as you know, ATP, we can help you form the carpool or the van pool. So any of your representatives, whether it's myself or Marie, Zara, or Pinky, feel free to reach out to us and we can help you walk through all of the steps to be able to ensure that you're taking the most advantage of this opportunity. So with that, I'm gonna actually turn it back over to Pinky, who's gonna talk about Capital Bike Share corporate memberships.
All right, so bike sales are continuing to boom. So ever since we hit the pandemic, we have seen an increased uptick in bike sales. I do know some of the local bike shops. There was a long wait even to get a bike, whether it's a new shiny bike or a refurbished bike. So biking and walking both are like great ways to get definitely great commuting options, but also a great way to get some physical activity in, because we all know the benefits of a short walk or a short bike ride has benefits on both your physical and mental health. So biking is definitely a great commute option for anybody who is, living under 5 miles or slightly more, depending on everybody's comfort level, to commute. So some things to support active commuters are maybe your company is not already enrolled in the Capital Bike Share corporate program. You can take advantage of that because through that program, your annual membership costs are reduced. Then one other thing that you can do is you can consider offering a financial incentive to those who are biking and walking, since if you already have a commuter benefits and people who are thinking of biking and walking, they cannot participate. This would be a nice thing and could be a small amount which can be used towards, bike maintenance or bike tune-ups, things like that. And definitely, you can schedule on-site educational events, like I mentioned in the events slide earlier about like how ATP can help you customize these events. So if you want to keep it bike focused, we can talk about, how we can help those who are interested in biking with, having a map, a bike route mapping, bike commute for them. Just talking a little bit about small, high level, maintenance tricks, like in case you get a flat tire, you got to change, you have to, how do you just oil your chain, small things like that. So this is a really good way to support active commuters. Now, as much as you should be, you're encouraging and actively promoting, it goes hand in hand to say, like, you want to make sure that you also keep some considerations in mind about, where would the employee be parking their bike. So like to make sure that there is secure bike parking and do employees have access to it, because you might need to work with the building maintenance or the property manager about how to get access to employees, those who would be needing to park their bike in these facilities, and also having shower access, because there might be some employees who are running or walking or say biking to work who don't sweat as much. If it's a 2 mile, you may not need a shower access, but there could be an employee who would need shower access. So, to just make sure that they have all this is available to them, and then communicating that to the employees. Specifically now, because due to the pandemic, a lot of property management companies have either like put a hold on the shower facility right now, or are limiting the amount of people using the shower. So you might want to just coordinate, that with the property management company, and then share that information to your employees. The good thing about biking is it's a great way to maintain social distancing. So you're absolutely safe. And although there is no law in Virginia that says that you have to wear a helmet, it's not mandatory, but I always encourage everybody who's riding a bike to, just for personal safety, whenever you can, definitely, try to put your helmet on. It's better to be safe. And Arlington is, a silver level bicycle friendly community, which means we have access to great trails. We have, dedicated bike lanes. We have, shared bike roads where we are sharing the road with the car. So, and we have signage saying that. So it's definitely a very safe place to bike. And definitely I would encourage to add bike commuting in your return, biking and walking both in your return to office and workplace programs. And with that, now I'm going to hand it over to Erica, who's going to be, doing a short poll.
Thank you, Pinky. So the poll question today, we're going to say, do you plan to enhance commuter benefits or telework as part of your return to the workplace? So we're going to give you a few minutes to go ahead and respond to that, and then we'll briefly discuss the results. Okay, just a few more seconds, and then we'll review the results. So whenever you're ready, Marie, we can go ahead and go on to the results there. So it looks like many of you are not planning to enhance your commuter results. It looks like for the bulk of it, you actually are planning to enhance both the commuter programs and the telework programs there. So we can certainly assist you with that. A few of you actually do not plan to enhance any of those, and then looks like about a third of you are also unsure or don't know yet. And we're certainly here again with all of the expertise that we have here with our panelists and within the organization as a whole. We can certainly help you assess this, gather data, and figure out which approach would best suit you and your employees. So we'll turn it back over to Pinky, who is going to talk about how ATP can help with the planning of some of this stuff.
So that's great that 50% of you expressed that you plan to enhance your commuter programs and telework. So, which is great. That's where, we are here and we can help you to enhance those programs, So how can we help? I know all this while we all have, spoken and shared some really helpful and valuable information to you. But now it would be only fair to summarize that how we can, help you really implement, enhance all these programs that we spoke about. So how can we help? One is we can definitely help you plan for return to workplace. So if you are still, I know right now we are all in this world where we are dodging our return to office date. It keeps changing due to various factors which are not in our control. But we can always help you create a customized return to work plan. As Zara mentioned about our checklist, we can include that in the checklist and provide you with information and how you can get started with the timeline and everything that Zara expressed in the previous slide. We can also conduct customized employee surveys I know Erica touched on this and spoke in detail about how these surveys, how we have these certain questions, what we include, all that. So we can definitely, help you with creating a customized survey for your workplace. And then, of course, we can host virtual or in-person workshops. Right now, we are only hosting virtual workshops. So whenever you're ready, we can, again, we'd be happy to be on board and have a virtual workshop. And as soon as we are allowed to have in-person, events and meetings at your office, we would be open to the idea of coming to your office and having in-person events where we would, we could share information about safety protocols, transit options, about the benefits that are offered to employees, also assist, them with customized trip planners. So if somebody is trying to try a new mode commuting option, we would be happy to assist them with creating customized trip planners for them. Then, implement new offerings for your employees. So we are also here to help you, provide you with, as most of you mentioned, that you want to enhance your commuter programs and telework. We can provide you with resources that might help you to enhance these programs. So whether it's a telework training guide, or is it, a commuter benefits guide, flexible workplace guide, we have a lot of different resources that are available. And all throughout the process, we will handhold you. So we won't just give you the information and no, we will make sure that we are with you throughout the process from, coming up with a plan, implementing it, and then after implementing it, we'll make sure that we assist you to help to promote that to your employees. So we have maximum people take advantage and participate in those programs. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Erica.
Thank you again, Pinky. So we've, talked a lot about all the different options, obviously how we're here to assist you in your return plans. And the great news is that we also have this information compiled in one place for you, which you will actually be receiving a copy of at the end of your participation today, which is your mobility toolkit. It will be understanding the commute mobility toolkit for the workplace, which will really help you not only take a look at your offerings right now, but really determine how to enhance it. Again, we're here to assist you in this process. So at any time, feel free to reach out to us, as a business development reps for different areas in Arlington County. We're certainly going to be reaching out to you proactively to see how we can engage. Please do expect those emails, those phone calls, and be prepared to, work with us to help. We're here to benefit you. We're here to help you, in whatever way that we can. So with that, we can actually turn it back over to Marie, who will be working on the closeout.
Great, and thank you everybody for attending today. Now we do have a few questions here, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we get a chance to answer some of those. Of course, now if for any reason you do need to go ahead and hop off, I know that we're getting close to time, then feel free to do so, but we'd love for you to stick around for the discussion. And please, if you haven't already, go ahead and post your questions that you have into the questions feature, and I'll start answering those. And so one of the questions that we've received asks if we have any communications that we can provide employees and on the Smart Trip card and the change with that. So yes, we actually do have sample emails. We have a blog post you can share, and we also have a video and a one-pager that you can share on that information. So if you know who your ATP representative is, then go ahead and reach out to them and they can provide you with those resources directly. Or if you're not quite sure, you should see our email address here as well, which is solutions@transpartners.com if you don't know who to reach out to. And then we can point you in the right direction there to receive that information. It is definitely something that is really good to share with employees as they start to return, because that is something that is going on now and going to continue over the course of the next year as they phase out those first generation Smart Trip cards. And then another question that we've gotten asks if we've allowed employees to park temporarily during COVID, but this won't last and we're not going to have enough parking for everybody, how can we manage this in the long term? And so this, I think you've heard a little bit about throughout the course of today's presentation. This is definitely something that a lot of companies are looking at. And parking is something that really you want to get ahead of very quickly, so that that way, because once employees' behaviors are set, they tend to kind of stick with that. And so that's where we can really come into play with some of our very customized solutions. Generally, with any sort of parking issues, we're going to ask for either employee zip codes or to do a survey to make sure that we come up with something that a plan that's going to most benefit you and that's going to reduce parking in the long term at your organization. So those are things that we can definitely support you on, and something that, like Zara and others have said throughout the course of this presentation, is something that's on a lot of employers' minds right now. And then another question that we've gotten as well is, what safety updates can we share with staff? And so this is another thing that we have a ton of resources on. We have quick glances that we can create for you that not only highlight what are the transportation options that are around your office, but then also go through all of the different safety measures that's being implemented on each different mode of transportation across the region. This is another great area to host an event at your organization, so that we can share, as you're sort of planning or having employees transition back to the office, what each transportation service provider is doing, and where are masks required, where are they not, and also what is everybody doing in terms of social distancing. So we'd be happy to share all of that information with you as well, and we can create sample communications around that for you to share as well. All right, and I'm just going to stick around for another few seconds to see if any additional questions come in. Again, please feel free to post them. All right, and so if that is all of the questions that we have for right now, then again, just want to thank everybody so much for joining us for today. And please don't hesitate to contact us if you have any questions that weren't answered here. And so we'll be sending a survey out via email before the end of the day today as well. And so we would love to hear any feedback that you have on this presentation or answer any further questions. And so I'm going to go ahead and just post that information in the chat here for everybody if you'd like to go ahead and get a start on that survey. And so thank you again. And as you know, your ATP representative is going to follow up with you via email to share a copy of our Sustainable Mobility Toolkit, which can help you plan for any sort of commuter programs or telework enhancements that you're planning to make with your transitions back to the office. And again, our names are Marie, Pinky, Zara, and Erica with Arlington Transportation Partners. Please do not hesitate to reach out to us with any questions and how we can support your transportation needs in Arlington County. And thank you so much. We'll be sharing a copy of the slides as well.